Yeah, thank you very much. Good evening, colleagues. My name is Hood Hussein. With me are the other group members, including Awori Cinderella, Yamugisha Tashas, Odong Samuel, Mark Muonge, Natamba Jude. And we are discussing the key issues that need to be considered for successfully undertaking market soundness in the public-private cycle. My role is to introduce this subject, and my colleagues will henceforth proceed with the rest of the issues. And to begin with, public-private partnership, as we are all aware, today is the thing. No government today will operate effectively without adopting the concept of public-private partnership. It's an innovation, and it's no longer an option. And it is introduced worldwide to enable the public sector provide public goods and services, and mainly the focus of the public-private partnership with infrastructural development. It also offers opportunities to improve service delivery, and it is a way of assuring better value for money. Now, in Uganda, we have the public-private partnership policy as enacted in 2010. Under the policy, the PPP arrangement is defined as a medium to long-term contractual arrangement between the public and the private sector to finance, construct, renovate, manage, and or maintain public infrastructure or to provide a public service. ADBA et al. In 2014 goes ahead to also explain that PPP is a long-term contract between a private party and a government entity for providing a public asset or service in which the private party bears significant risk and management responsibility, and remuneration is linked to performance. As I said, mine was merely to introduce, and therefore, may I call upon my brother, Mark Muonge, to take us through to the next issue of this topic. I beg to submit.
This is Zio Odom. Market soundness.
It is supposed to be Mark first to take us through the market soundness in the PP cycle. Then immediately after Mark, I will present the market. I will present the aims of market sounding exercise. The aims of the market sounding exercise. So I would request.
Thank you, Hood, for that very good introduction. I will now proceed to discuss market soundness in the public-private cycle, public-private partnership cycle. Once the essential characteristics of the infrastructure project have been defined and an initial output specification produced, the nature and extent of the market interest in the public-private partnership solution should be established by means of a market sounding exercise. The market sounding involves the gathering of gathering knowledge on the viability of the proposed business scheme, capability of the private sector to achieve the requirement, capacity of the market to achieve what is required quickly enough with a large enough scale and maturity of the market. So basically, to put it in context and to simplify it a bit, it comprises the communication of information prior to the announcement of a transaction in order to gauge the interest of investors in a possible transaction and the conditions relating to it. As such, it is potential size of pricing to one or more potential investors. And the market soundness may take place, for example, orally within a meeting, via an audio or video call, in writing, or by means of any electronic communication. From now, I'll proceed to hand over to my colleague Sam to take us through the aims of market soundness.
Well, thank you so much, Ndugu Muonge Mark, for such a very vivid presentation. I move forward to give the aims of the market sounding exercise, which are as follows. One, an effective market sounding exercise provides an opportunity for a structured dialogue between the private and the public sectors in the PPP process. And the main purpose of the market soundness is to get feedback from the market on the feasibility of the proposed PPP project. Actually, it entails to test the private sector's ability to assume risks that are to be transferred via the concession contract from the public sector to private sector. For example, risks such as operation risks, relationship risks, financial risks, legal and regulatory, and probably the force majeure risks can also be dialogue on. Then the other one is it's intended to communicate the needs and the requirements of the project to the potential suppliers, design consultants, investors, and collaborators, and others to mention. The other one is to stimulate innovative, technical, and commercial solutions. Here, basically, we shall be in a position to take up ideas, discover new risks from different from the public. We shall be in a position to have some input from outsiders. We shall also be in a position to prepare our ideas well, and as well as clear rules regarding the development of the ideas. In other words, creating free space. The other one is to find out what the market can deliver in the short, medium, and long term, and also finally to provide the opportunity to all the interested parties to express their views with regard to the project and the partnership. Interested parties can be the shareholders, can be investors, the public, and others to mention. With that, I want to move forward to invite my senior comrade, Dr. Shaz, to take us through on the steps in doing market sounding exercise.
Thank you, Samuel. As you rightly put it earlier, the market soundness as the process of sharing the project information with the market and potential stakeholders, with the view of providing feedback and responses to the key stakeholders. Some of the main steps that we must go through while sharing this information include the distribution of project concept notes, project interest inquiry to identify the potential stakeholders via telephone interviews, market surveys, dialogue sessions, collecting the responses to the project interest inquiries, and basically preparing a short report summarizing these responses to the government. And the main issues under market soundness include the scope of the project, basically right from infrastructure development, construction, to implementation of the project. If it was a water project, maybe construction, implementation, provision of water services, collection of fees, all of that, the scope has to be highlighted. The potential cost of the the effective risks, the transfer of risks, as is always preferred for PP, that the risk is more transferred to the private developer than the government itself. So the profiling of those risks, the payment mechanisms are the other issues. How are the charges? If it was a road construction project, the tariffs on the road, the charges, if they were to be increased. So the payment mechanisms are the other issues. The most important, the next most important issue are the expenditure models, the capital expenditures, the operational expenditures. All this has been highlighted in the project, in the PP arrangement. And the other important issue here is the potential for value for money. The evidence for value for money has to actually be achieved through the construction and operation of these stages. And the other issues which are important here include the exercise of ensuring that these PP projects must be conducted in line with the PP with the relevant procurement rules. And in Uganda we have the PPDA, which is the law of the land with regard to these procurements. And it is also recommended that the sounding should be undertaken jointly with the relevant authority and its appointed advisors. All those are very key issues that we must, but these issues have been summarized in the table below, which is to be presented by my colleague summarizing these issues, Mr. Jude. Mr. Jude, you're welcome.
Thank you very much, Senior Comrade Tertius, for that wonderful and excellent presentation, and my colleagues, well done. As he has highlighted, mine is just to give a snapshot of the market soundness input during the public-private partnership cycle. And these ones actually take 4 major stages. And I will be highlighting a stage and then give market soundness action in order to have an effective, public-private partnership cycle. Number 1 among them is selection and prioritization of projects for PPPs. This one is mainly focuses at getting area market engagement, ensuring area market engagement in order to build up market knowledge and assess the existence and capacity of the market to undertake such initiatives. And here I want to quickly give an example that the government of Uganda values this input because the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development has gone ahead to establish a fully-fledged unit in charge of public-private partnerships. This one undertakes all these market engagements and build up market knowledge, and the information is shared, broadly with potential, private investors in order to come on board and partner with government to improve service delivery in the country. The second stage is the screening stage. This one is very, very critical when you talk about market soundness during the PPP's cycle, because this one aims at providing sufficient information regarding the project's size, the scope, the schedule, business, and the scheme which is available at the time. And under this stage, it is very critical for the government to provide, potential or prospective private investors with all the necessary information regarding the kind of, areas where government feels that the private sector ought to come on board and join hands together with government to improve service delivery. And I believe our colleagues and maybe our facilitator who's watching us right now, you must have seen a lot of supplements in newspapers whereby government puts out a lot of information, sharing with public regarding such projects so that it can create awareness among the potential market.
Then we have value for money assessment, very critical stage, very, very critical. This one helps in assessing value for money potential during market soundness exercise. Evidence is thought on the potential for the PPP to deliver improved service, improved value for money. The aim, as it has already been highlighted by my colleague, for this kind of undertaking is to ensure that, yes, we improve service delivery, but again, we make sure that there is value for money in whatever we are undertaking that under this kind of arrangement. And of course, here, experience of similar projects, are benchmarked and with the view of the private sector to establish the kind of readiness and the potential and the capabilities of making sure that the value for money is attained. A very, very critical example here is that the other year, I think, the Parliament of Uganda directed the Office of the Auditor General to undertake a value for money audit on one of the hydropower dams to make sure that value for money was ensured. Then finally, there must be detailed due diligence of the projects of projects proposed for public-private partnerships in order to get various feedback on technical financial aspects of projects, including concerns and issues, and also conditions required for such transactions. Thank you very much. I want to invite our colleague, Madam President Cindy, to take us through the conclusion bit of it. Thank you. Cindy, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my colleagues, for that discussion. I'll proceed with the final part of our discussion, and we are saying that market soundness. In market soundness, so many parties are engaged. For example, we look at the private bidders who have skills to undertake a project, or who have skills for a project that had been done before. So during market soundness, what are some of the feedbacks that cannot be ignored by the government? One, we are talking about the payment mechanism. So under the payment mechanism, you realize that with this era where information, ICT era, the information and communication technology era, there's a lot of digital innovation that has led to dynamic changes in the business environment, thereby changing a shift. Okay, let me say there is now a shift in the way payments are being done. Is it a cash payment or is it an online payment? So let's take an example of the Kampala-Jinja Express Highway. The project was estimated to be about 5 billion. Yes, about 5 billion. And you should all note that this 5 billion wasn't actually paid in full, but rather it was cleared in phases, phase 1, phase 2, until the project was completed. Next, we'll also look at the general aspects or the risk allocations. It is very important that as government is looking for feedback, they should consider the aspects that entails the risks. So we are saying that in a PPP context, the means of allocating risks should actually be clearly identified. Therefore, allocating project risk efficiently is one of the main ways of achieving value for money. And you know, as we are studying PPP or the many PPP projects that we have seen before, value for money, as explained by one of my colleagues, is something that is very, very important. Then we'll also look at the proposed, the financial assumptions that should be considered, such as the debt condition, the costs, the tax, the accounting assumptions. So we are saying that assumptions used by the public and the private parties may not be the same. Therefore, there will be a difference in the results when we try to analyze the different financials for the different PPPs that have taken place. So clearly, there will be a difference that will be on the basis of negotiation. Yes, that will be on the basis of negotiation. Next, we'll also look at the proposed timetable for the period from which the procurement or how the procurement will be carried out. You see, we can't do everything at a go. If you guys may agree with me, fellow managers, the Entebbe Express Highway wasn't built in one day, okay? There was a timetable for the periods of which the work had to commence. Right now, I think we are in the final stages. It's complete, and from the information I have is that by next month, the road will now officially be on use. So what are we saying? That there's also this point of the proposed contract structure that includes risk allocation. Risks can't be avoided. They'll always be there when carrying out the PPP in Uganda. So we really have to, government really has to collect feedback on what kind of risk the people around the area where PPP is being carried out will have. So finally, we'll also look at the proposed contract structure. We are saying structuring a PPP project means allocating the responsible rights and the risks to each party of a PPP contract. So we're saying, therefore, the starting point for any PPP structuring is a project concept, that is a project's physical outline, the technology, how it's operating, the outputs, and the people that the PPP that is being carried out is supposed to serve. So as I come to a conclusion on this, I cannot ignore a contract restructuring. We are saying that contract restructuring focuses on identifying and allocating the risks that we earlier talked about, the residue risk, the demand risks. So when we are carrying out a contract restructuring, we cannot fail to allocate the risks. So finally, we also look at the scope of the PPP, which is very important. We are saying that scoping the PPP projects means defining the work that must be done by the future private partners to deliver the objectives. So what are we trying to say here? We are trying to say that market sounding is very important. Why is it important? Because it gets to engage the different parties, the people who have done the work before, of course, the people who are coming to fresh in the business and all that. Yes, Mr. Chairman, sir, I don't want to speak so much, but we are saying that despite the risks involved during market sounding exercise, such as graviating solutions towards ideas suggested by the dominant or expected players, misdirecting the project based on incomplete information or misleading information obtained during market sounding, the different, we need to consider an aspect of time in all this. Mr. Chairman, sir, I beg to submit. Thank you so much for listening.
Okay, thank you. You've exceeded your minutes, but maybe it was necessary. Thank you very much, guys, for participating. It was good participation. Thank you.